Hi. Thanks for tuning in again to our daily inspiration. As always, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here with us, and hopefully you'll be edified with what we've put together for you here. And if it isn't too much of a hassle for you, please do share this video on your social media to help spread the message around. And indeed, there's something rather important that I'd like to share here with you from Father Reehil.
Just to kind of reflect a little bit about what's been going on out there in that crazy world we live in. I don't really follow the news until I get home at night, and then I will put on this one program I watch, and that kind of caps the whole series of the last 24 hours. And the headlines continue to be the college campuses and this complete mayhem that's happening. And last night, I guess they started arresting some of these kids. And a lot of them aren't kids, by the way. Some of them are in their 30s and 40s who were, I suppose, brought in to create anarchy and mayhem on the campuses. And I'm listening to the reporting on it, and it's just so, you just know when people are not telling the truth. One of the questions asked was, why did you wait so long to send in the SWAT teams? And the mayor of New York City said, although this has happened on all the campuses, he said, it's private property. We can't just show up on private property. We have to be invited. And I'm thinking, really? Because my home is private property. And if there's a threat to me and I call the police, they show up. Right? And you don't have to have a phone call. If you turn on your TV and you see crimes being committed on the news, broadcasting from the campus, that you have a right to show up and stop it. This is crazy to me. But the other thing is, they finally started showing pictures of these people's faces, the perpetrators of these crimes. These people have such a darkness in their eyes. There is no love there. There is pure hatred. It's almost like you're looking at the demon in the person. And that's pretty frightening to have, such a concentrated group of people that all seem to be dealing with demonic problems. And they obviously don't know how to manage that. I'm not saying everybody there is possessed. I'm saying there's a lot of demonic activity, it looks like, going on in these places. And, to go to the other end of the spectrum, there's no happiness, there's no joy, period. None whatsoever. There's just a lot of discord and anger and violence and rage and hatred. And that's just, who wants to live like that? And you're bringing that onto the campuses, and it's just a very odd thing that it would take about a week to put a stop to it,
And here's the second part of Father Reehil's commentary on the issue related to the protest.
They're out of control. And they're not entirely the campus students, I saw this morning that they arrested some Middle Eastern men, and these weren't even young men. These were middle-aged men who had events in New York City. Now to New York City, that's a big no-no, and hardly anybody gets a permit to carry in New York City. So I hope that these people are prosecuted, but the trend is to not prosecute, which means we're sending a message that you can do whatever you want and there will be no repercussions to you. So today I saw Eric Adams sent in SWAT teams with tear gas. Maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. It was on today's news. And the kids, they scattered like cockroaches. There's no backbone in these kids. And I'm not saying they should stay and endure tear gas, but like that should have happened on day one, not a week later, and that lets them know that we're not playing games here. We're going to come in and we're going to shoot you with tear gas, and then we're going to arrest you and throw you in jail. How can we have college campuses that are telling the kids to stay home because it's not safe when you do nothing to protect them? Seriously, how you have tuitions of $60,000 a year and you can't afford security on your campus? Are you joking? It's a joke, big joke. And maybe it's time for the college universities to go away because they're not really providing any benefit. They're deforming the kids. They're forming radical atheists is what they're doing. And we really don't need any more of those, for sure. Pray for these kids, pray that they'll come to their senses and that and for their protection, because I don't know what's happening, but it's a very dangerous place to be. I just saw there were 4. So there's high tension, there's high anger and rage, and so dangerous time in our country, and I would add in the whole world. But if we don't change, if people do not get it, then God will. He's going to allow these what looks like chastisements to come, because it's the only thing that will get people's attention. And that's a sad state of the world, when you need catastrophes to get people's attention to turn back to God, and still the world seems to be careening out of control. So, it's a time when you have to get on your knees and pray for protection over your families. You have to do this, because these are things that are going to be out of control, that we won't be able to have any control over. So we got to be praying, because only God can protect from unknown things we have no idea about. And there keeps being talk about, both in the news and also in these mystics, that there's countries that have developed weapons that we haven't seen yet, that nobody knows how they will work except the country that has created them. And when they are unleashed on mankind is going to be horrified. Well, that's, again, you don't know how and when that's going to happen, if it does happen indeed at all. But God knows. Our Lady said the rosary can stop wars. It's time to be upping your rosaries, because we're already involved in two wars around the world.
Anyway, for the second part of this video, I'd like to share something completely different than what Father Reehil addressed in both clips, and it's about the 20 things our guardian angels do for us. Our guardian angels, imagine you had a bodyguard who was always with you. He did all the usual bodyguard things like protecting you from danger, warding off assailants, and generally keeping you safe in all situations. But he also did more than this. He offered you moral guidance, helped you become a stronger person, and led you to your ultimate calling in life. But here's the thing. We don't have to imagine it, because already have such a bodyguard. Christian tradition calls them guardian angels. But unfortunately, too often we neglect to tap this great spiritual resource. And so in order to better enlist the aid of guardian angels, it might help to have a better appreciation of what they can do for us. Here are 20 things they do for us. I'm not going to elaborate too much so that this video wouldn't be too long. Ward off demons. Sometimes we visualize moral decision-making as a debate between a bad angel whispering in one ear and a good angel speaking wisely in the other. And we know that one of the roles of the guardian angels is to fight off demons, protect us from harm. Guardian angels generally protect us from both spiritual and physical harm, and this belief is rooted in Scripture. For he commands his angels with regard to you, to guard you wherever you go. With their hands they shall support you, lest you strike your foot against a stone. Strengthen us against temptation. Guardian angels not only just ward off evil, they also strengthen us so we can do it ourselves. As St. Bernard says in a sermon, as often therefore, as a most serious temptation is perceived to weigh upon you, and an excessive trial is threatening, call to your guard, your leader, your helper in your needs, in your tribulation. Cry to him and say, Lord, save us, we perish. Embolden us. St. Bernard also says that with angels such as these at our side, we should have no fear. We should have the courage to live out our faith boldly and confront whatever life might throw our way. As he puts it, why should we fear under such guardians? Those who keep us in all our ways can neither be overcome nor be deceived, much less deceive. They are faithful, they are prudent, they are powerful. Why we tremble? Intervene miraculously to save us from trouble. Guardian angels not only guard, but they also can save us when we are already in trouble. This is illustrated by the story of Peter in Acts 12, when an angel helps break Peter out of prison. The story suggests that it is his own personal angel that has intervened. It's an added comfort to know that they are possible. Guard us from birth. Church fathers once debated whether guardian angels were assigned at birth or at baptism. St. Jerome argued decisively for the former. His basis was Matthew 18 verse 10, which is a crucially important scriptural passage that supports the existence of guardian angels. In the verse, Jesus says, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I say to you that their angels in heaven always look upon the face of my heavenly Father." The reason that we get guardian angels at birth is that their aid is associated with our nature as rational beings rather than belonging to the order of grace. Guard all of us, including unbelievers. St. Thomas makes this clear in explaining that God never leaves any of us, including sinners. And according to the general teaching of the theologians, however, not only every baptized person, but every human being, including unbelievers, has his own special guardian angel from his birth. Pope Benedict XVI also taught that guardian angels are ministers of the divine care for every human being. Remind us of the dignity of persons. It is particularly evident from Matthew 18 verse 10, where Jesus instructs us not to despise the little ones because they have angels watching over them. And as St. Jerome puts it, the worth of souls is so great that from birth each one has an angel assigned to him for protection. Remind us of God's care for all. St. Thomas also explains how the angels operate in accordance with God's providential plan for all men. It follows that these angels serve as a reminder of his care for us. Bring our needs to God. Our guardian angels act as intercessors who bring our requests directly to God, based on Jesus' words in Matthew 18 verse 10 about angels beholding the face of God. Bring us closer to God. And guardian angels also aid in bringing us nearer to God. Even when God seems distant, just remember that the guardian angel assigned to you personally is at the same time beholding God directly. Move us to the good. Guardian angels also move us to the good. As St. Thomas writes, "It is moreover manifest that as regards things to be done, human knowledge and affection can vary and fail from good in many ways, and so it was necessary that angels should be deputed for the guardianship of men, in order to regulate them and move them to good. And this includes prompting us to perform good works. Reinforce God's commands. According to St. Thomas, one of the roles of our angelic guardians is helping us use our reason to pursue virtue. In particular, he says the angels help us in developing prudence by serving as God's universal instructor, passing on God's precepts. Illuminate the truth. Angels propose the intelligible truth to men through sensible things. Although he does not elaborate on this point, this is a basic teaching of the Church that the material world points to invisible spiritual realities. As St. Paul says in Romans 1 verse 20, ever since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes of eternal power and divinity have been able to be understood and perceived in what he has made. Strengthen our minds. A second way that angels enlighten us is by reinforcing our intellects. As St. Thomas puts it, the human intellect as the inferior is strengthened by the action of the angelic intellect. Communicate through our imagination. In addition to working through our senses and intellects, our guardian angels also influence us through our imaginations, and we can look at St. Joseph's dreams as example. But it might not be something as obvious as a dream. It could also be through more subtle, which could be defined as an image brought to the senses or the imagination. Influence our wills. Angels cannot directly move the will, but, according to St. Thomas, they can indirectly influence it through our senses and intellect. This means that our guardian angels influence every part of our being for the better, our senses, intellect, and will. Aid in our salvation. The ultimate goal of all that guardian angels do is to aid in our salvation, and angels are sent to minister in that efficaciously indeed, for those who shall receive the inheritance of salvation, if we consider the ultimate effect of their guardianship, which is the realizing of that inheritance. Take a look at Hebrews 1 verse 14, which states, "Are they not all ministering spirits sent to serve, for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation?" Remind us of our ultimate goal. Inspired by Christ's words in Matthew 18 verse 10, the Church Father suggests that guardian angels remind us that our ultimate goal is the beatific vision of God. And finally, our guardian angels never leave us. Guardian angels assume their duties at our birth and maintain them up to our death. And for St. Thomas, this is just an extension of the broader truth that we never completely leave God's care, even in sin and doubt. Now it is evident that neither man nor anything at all is entirely withdrawn from the providence of God. For in as far as a thing participates being, so far is it subject to the providence that extends over all being. God indeed is said to forsake man, according to the ordering of his providence, but only in so far as he allows man to suffer some defect of punishment or of fault. In like manner, it must be said that the angel guardian never forsakes a man entirely. Well then, that will be all for the video this time. As always, thank you so much everybody for taking the time to watch this video, and hopefully you've learned a lot from this. And if there's any feedback or suggestion, please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, for those of you who'd like to support our works, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contribution, and prayer. And until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, and may God bless you.